Good evening to everyone who has joined us from different parts of the world. Welcome to the Creative Orthodox Corner. The second episode of Creative Orthodox Corner begins here. Today, we are featuring the newly released book, Unmasking the Syriacs, The Hidden Origin of Indian Christianity, written by Jeevan Philip. Creative Orthodox Corner aims to provide pan-Orthodox space for creative content creators in the Orthodox world. So we are much honored to have Jeevan Philip joining us with us for discussing regarding the new released book. First of all, let me introduce you to the Jeevan Philip, who has obtained his education from Aligarh Muslim University in India, where he studied physics, maths, and management. His primary interest in history, linguistic, anthropology, and genetics steered him up to take serious research studies on the socio-cultural history of different castes and social groups in India, especially focusing on Kerala. He spent over 20 years learning the various aspects of the origin and history of Malankara Nazranis as well. He has deviated from the usual methodology of historical studies and has applied modern scientific studies like linguistics and genetics, which has resulted in a logical and realistic understanding of our past. He has published numerous articles on social media platforms. We are much honored to have Jeevan Philip with us. We all-heartedly welcome you, sir, for this program.
Thank you.
First of all, let me give you a brief introduction regarding this book. This book is about the origin of Indian Christianity, especially Syriac Christianity, based on archaeological findings from the ancient sites of Africa, Eurasian, and socio-commercial network. In light of the archaeological data and artistic imagery represented in Central Asia religious synatrics and historical narrative, the author questions the martyrdom of Saint Thomas at Mylapore, Chennai, and its prime evidences Pahlavi inscribed crosses. Contrary to the popular belief, the author meticulously suggests the possibility of Gnostic origin of Pahlavi crosses of South India. He proposes the origin of present-day Syriac Christianity in India in an amalgamation of different Gnostic groups comprising Tracy-Dravidian, Macans, and Judo-Dravidian pre-Proto-Orthodox groups in post-9th century period under the Syriac missionary supervision. We hope to discuss the different aspects of this book in this discussion, and let's begin our Creative Orthodox Corner. First of all, thank you for accepting our invite to this program. So, Jeevan sir, could you give a brief description about your work regarding the unmasking the origin of Syriacs?
Thank you. My name is Jeevan Philip. And first of all, let me thank you, Creative Orthodox Corner, for inviting me to explain about my book. And all others in the OCP world, I thanks once again. Let me start with my book, brief idea about the book. This book is all about the history, the origin of Christianity in India. But it's usually we see the history of Christianity in India, and the studies regarding that subject is conventional methodology referring to some hagiographic works passed on, and the writings and recordings of the early church fathers, and nothing else. And then we have a push and pull strategy, like the St. Thomas Christians, so-called St. Thomas Christians or Malankara Nazranis of Kerala, has many myths and stories regarding the origin of their Christianity in India. So I am not following that the very same concept or the methodology of the history writing here. In this book, I followed the very unorthodox methodology to find out the facts and realities about the origin of Christianity in India. This methodology was not first time originated by me only, but rather many other people has tried this kind of methodology in earlier times also. But what I did was that as per the historical studies of the Malankara Nasranis, the many of the historians start with the early writings and they proposes the Mylapore cross or the Pahlavi cross as the first and the foremost evidences of early Christianity existed in India. The first Christianity existed in India, and its characteristics are Persian Christianity. And why they are suggesting is the only thing is that the Pahlavi crosses inscriptions in Pahlavi. I started studying the Pahlavi crosses and its inscriptions, and I choose a methodology that from there, considering it as the basic and the foremost evidence of the existence of a Christian group in South India, our old Tamilagam. Now, in order to find out the real fact behind this cross and its history, I choose to backtrack, they walk back towards the socio-commercial network, which might have helped to reach this kind of a religion and this kind of a symbol, a cross symbol to India. This particular Persian symbol or Persian cross inscribed by the Pahlavi crosses found by Portuguese in 1547. Till that time, no Malankara Nasranis or the St. Thomas Christians never knew about this particular cross. And I started asking that why this thing has happened. Because if the Christians existed from the 1st century or maybe a 3rd century, they must know about this particular cross. But in past writings and their memories till the Portuguese arrived, there is no description about the particular Pahlavi crosses of southern India. And 1547, the Portuguese excavators found the particular Pahlavi cross, and they thought it was a kind of a symbol, might be a cross, and its language was considered that time was Aramaic, and their old writings and the letters describes about the Aramaic, but unfortunately they cannot decipher it. They contacted a early Brahmin, Canara Brahmin, which in my book it is all their translation as given. And from there are around 16 17 translations has been done, and particularly each translation I go on in my book, it's continuously the translations, and but find out these translations are not agreeable each other. The first group of translations from Canara Brahmin to this Bernal time. See, the Bernal was the person who identified the particular language was Pahlavi. Till that time, they were talking about Aramaic, they were talking about some other language, Hebrew, and all those things was there. But the Bernal suggested that this is a Pahlavi and a Persian language, a dead language, and most probably this cross may be a work of Manichaean Church of Persia. This created a huge turmoil, or what you call the Christians were against it, because since it is the shape of cross, it must be come from the Christianity, and particularly the Persian Christianity. That was that time the other scholars were suggesting. So the pressure was mounted on Bernal, and Bernal backtracked from his earlier decision, and he said that maybe it came from Persian Christianity, but still there is a chance in the future they may find the Manichaean or any Gnostic archaeological evidences, and we can decide on that then time. So later on, these excavation in the Mylapore cross, and they find out two skeletons, and they suggested that the skeleton with white color was belongs to Saint Thomas, and the brownish color was an Indian king. It was very humorous proposal. They suggested, and they started sending letters as all their discovery. And what happened was that at that time Vatican also questioned that we have already a skeleton, full skeleton in Italy, and we are venerating it, and we are doing all those respect for that, and how it is possible that the St. Thomas skeleton was found out in Mylapore. So there was no answer, and there was many letters were sent regarding this matter. Finally, they decided on that the St. Thomas was martyred in Mylapore, and this cross belongs to Persian Christianity. And they suggested that the Persian Christianity had some kind of a three-blobed cross system, which is I explained in my book. And this three-blobed cross is similar to the Manichaean cross found out in Persian cross found out in Mylapore. So the similarities, as they suggested, and the all Christian world and the scholars who support the Christianity suggested that it belongs, and they decided over it. But still the Bernal suggestion was there, and later period 1800 and later the Manichaean studies was progressed, and many scholars came into the Manichaean studies, and they translated many Persian Pahlavi writings from the Manichaean side also. They found out many ideas as mixed with the Syriac Christianity in Manichaeism. So what I did was that walk back to this Pahlavi cross to find out which way it might have reached in India. So since the socio-commercial network was the only channel which can reach this transfer of religions to India, they decided, they inquired about many, what you call these archaeological excavation sites, and find out the remains of the crosses and compare these crosses, and they find out the three broad crosses was similar to Manichaean cross at Pahlavi, cross at Mylapore. So my study again gone in the same way, what that finding out the trade network and the socio-commercial network and the ancient archaeological sites, and finding out whatever materials and archaeological remains is found from these particular trade network sites, and I compared these crosses and analyzed these crosses to find out what is the differences, how it is evolved into particular shape, and how it has reached into particular this particular Manichaean style crosses in Mylapore. So what I find out that from the Mediterranean world, the Christianity started penetrating into East from the Mediterranean world, the Roman Syria and the Mesopotamia, then the Persian world. The cross was transferred from the Mediterranean world to the Persian Sasanian Christianity. Before that, I search and I find out the evolution of the crosses and the adoption of the cross symbol in the Christianity. In order to do that, the symbol of cross and its formation, its usage by the world civilization was studied, and I find out that the almost all civilizations of the world has used this cross, especially the Mesopotamians, Assyrians, and even the Mediterranean side, many other civilizations, even the Egyptians, their Ankh cross was used. Even Indian swastika cross was used. And this similarity between these crosses. There are different crosses are there, and we found out that the 3 or 4 type of crosses was used, and these crosses later used by Christianity also. So it is very interesting to find out that the cross and of present day cross which Christianity used, and the crucifixion taken place in Jesus Christ crucifixion taken place in the first century was entirely different. And those studies has revealed many things is about the crucifixion of Jesus. See, from the biblical writings, as we find no relations or no informations regarding the crucifixion of Jesus detailed. No apostles, no later writers, or no early Christianity writers discuss about anything about the crucifixion's detail. They just say, they just narrate the things, and they have tortured Jesus Christ and hang on a cross. And what is the cross and what shape of the cross was that? There is no information given in the Bible. But there are many scholars studied about these cross and detailed. So there was an arrangement called patibulum and stauro arrangement. Stauro was the word used in the Greek for cross, and stauro is just a pole, and the patibulum is the crossbar used to hang the people. What they used to do is that the patibulum is attached on the hands and torture them, and then take them and to hang in the already posted post, and that posted pole. And that was the method of crucifixion, and that makes the tauro, the T-shaped cross. And most probably the Christ was crucified the T-shaped cross. And after that, the 3rd century or 4th century, 313, the Edict of Milan, the Roman kings adopted the cross as the symbol. Constantine converted to Christianity, and he adopted the cross as the symbol of Christianity, and this cross came into as a symbol of Christianity to Persian Mediterranean world. And later, in the 4th or the 5th century, it was penetrated. When the Christianity penetrated through the socio-commercial network, it's penetrated into Sasanian world or the Persian Empire. And actually, these crosses, earlier the cross was in different shapes, and there are 2 main crosses: the equilateral cross quadrata and the cross normal Latin cross. These 2 crosses was used. Many decorations was added on this cross, and there are splayed arm crosses. And splayed arm crosses means the end of the cross is broader and the center of the cross is narrow, the splayed arm crosses. So when I search the archaeological sites throughout the Mediterranean, Sasanian, Persian Empire, even up to China, we find the splayed arm crosses with the 2 blobs. Blobs is the teardrops is in the as a serif in the corners of the arms of the crosses. And these crosses can be, the evolution of the crosses can be traced through the archaeological findings from the various ancient sites of the socio-commercial network. And none of these social commercial network showed this particular shape which we found from the Manichaean or what you call Persian cross from the Mylapore. And this questioned and a doubt arose in me: is it really a Christian cross? Is anything is related with that? So what had happened was that the entire analysis of the unearthed crosses from the socio-commercial network, starting through the Indian Ocean trade network from the Red Sea route and the Persian Gulf area, then the Mesopotamia and the proper Persia, then Central Asian Silk Route, and up to South China. I searched all the ancient sites and collected the samples and the photographs and the from the various archaeological studies and compared it with that, none of the crosses has any particular same shapes as what we found from the Mylapore cross. This created a confusion, and I searched how could the crosses was developed in such various shapes. There is there is a syncretism. These Middle East and the Mesopotamian Persian area, when Christianity started, there were many groups, more than 200 groups played up to AD 200, maybe Common Era 200, what you call Common Era 200. These 200, around 200, 180, 200 groups. These groups had different beliefs. There were Jewish groups, there were Greek groups, there were Persian groups, and almost mixed groups also. There were Marcionites, the Barsadianites, and there were Tatianites, and there were so many groups. And Patripassianites, you can see early church history, there are hundreds of the groups believed many different beliefs and worshipped different styles. Some worshipped cross, some worshipped many other symbols. So among them, there was a group called Proto-Orthodox groups, which was emerged after the Constantine took over the Christianity. And he propagated the Latin cross mixed with the Cairo symbol. And this Cairo symbol with the staurograms proposed the first shape of the cross used by the Roman Christianity, or what you call Byzantine Christianity. And the Byzantine Christianity also used equilateral cross called what we now see in the symbol of red cross. This type of cross. These two crosses migrated through the trade network to the Sasanian world or the Persian world, and they have already mixed these crosses through the with the symbols of the old Assyrian crosses, and these crosses produce the particular blobbed crosser style. The corner of the cross is inscribed by the two roundels in the corners, and it was started the splayed arm crosses with the two blobs, and later they again added the three blobs. The center blobs also came in it. Actually, what happened was that the Byzantines had the iconography, but the Persians had particularly no iconography as such. And today the scholars argue that the Persian Christianity also had these iconography or the three-dimensional statues, but there is hardly one or two examples are there. Generally, the 6th to 7th century, particularly 8th century, the Muslim invasion taken place. They were against completely against the iconography and the statues. So the Sasanian Christianity, particularly Persian Church, also cooperated with the Muslim world, and they rejected all kind of statues or iconography in the Persian Christianity. Now, these crosses and the particular blobbed crosses with the three blobs, the center blobbed crosses also mistaken as the same cross, what you call the Mylapore cross, the Manichaean cross. Actually, the interesting thing is that the Oriel Stein and the other excavators in 1913 excavating in the Central Asian trade routes and the Tarfan area and Goa caves, and the many discoveries were made. They made a Tarfan. They found a Manichaean temple. They found one Manichaean wall hanging with exactly the same cross like the Nestorians or what you call the Church of the East was using, the three blobbed crosses. And that picture is already given in my book with all descriptions, and unfortunately that material is not available, but the writings and the drawings is from the Olaf Stein is already available in his book, and it is kept. So studying this, Hans Joachim Klimketh already analyzed this, and he confirmed these crosses were belong to Manichaeans. Now, if these three blobbed crosses can be equated to the cross found from the Pahlavi cross found from the Mylapore, Chennai, then the responsibility of these crosses comes into two groups. One group is the Persian Christians, and the other group is Nestorian Christian, Manichaean Christians. And these two groups, you already use the same three-blobed crosses, and if three-blobed crosses can be used in the Mylapore cross, then why the Christian church historians only give responsibility to the Nestorians, not to Manichaeans? My question was that. The doubt was there. So I searched about I again started studying about the inscriptions and the translations. There are many translations, as I said already. The latest translation by the Gignox and the Serati and the Winkworth and all those people, they put it in a group, and I divided this translation into four groups. And the third group, the latest group, they decided they translated in different ways. They are not agreeing fully with each other, but they have certain similarities, and they started. If you read the book, they started with something, and they finally reached somewhere they are equating to the or translating it as similar to the it as a Christian cross. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, 2014, a Canaanite businessman sponsored a Shilanand Hemraj, a Banaras Hindu University researcher and paleographist. He translated it. It was interesting to not his translations. Those translations were made by Gignox and Serati and those groups. They translated the conventional methodology, and they did it because the Pahlavi translation is very difficult, because logogrammatic nature and the areograms, which means that it is not like phonetical terms, A, B, C, D, and which makes a sound, and which put together make a word and give you a meaning. But the Pahlavi language is a particularity that it has symbols, and a symbols itself represents a word. So if a translator approaches, he doesn't know that's a particular symbol. He compare it and he assume that this must be this. And the translation is approximation methodology. It is not exactly similar. So what you call is that this kind of logograms, grammatic nature of the language, which made it very difficult to translate the exact meaning. So that is why the difference in meanings is, because each epigraphist or the archaeologist study the translations, is what you call, he come up with entirely different results and meanings. So how do you decide on this different meanings of it? So what they do is that each one of the translators do is that they get the stories from the Christianity exist in Kerala or Malangara or the South India, and they attach the same word to each logograms and find out that this is this, so that they suppose that it is from the Christianity, so it must be something related with the Christianity. But it is interesting to note that Hemaraj, he took a different style. A Birdsong style. He find it out that the different style of inscriptions is, and similar ones is identified and he put together, and the unsimilar one is put together, and he studied. And he came up with his first notion was that the earlier translators, what they did was they translated and they said that this was done by the son of Chahabok, the Syrian who cut this. And his prominent name was there. That the originator, the responsible person's name was boldly inscribed in there, and the matter was 50% it attributed to him. So the hemorrhage questioned this thing. Hemorrhage said, why would a venerable cross branded with is a responsible person's name when the cross itself is for the veneration of others? It's natural. In the natural, it is logical. Even in our cases also, many people offer the crosses and other kind of things to the our pallis or churches. They put the name in the small letter words, or sometimes even behind. So the same logic was proposed by the hemorrhage. The other thing was that these identify the similar words and they put together, and he came up with the idea that it was entirely different. It was that it was a praying towards Jesus Christ to save, and the thanksgiving to Jesus Christ for saving his life. And in that, if it is correct, then it even includes the mankind. Why? The not only Christianity, the mankind also thanks Jesus. And in their literature found from the Chinese Heim Scroll 19, they thanks Jesus Christ for saving them from the Makaras. This Heim Scroll interestingly generated interest in me, and I compare this what artistic imagery in that particular cross. See, instead of all those three blobed, or what you called the curved crosses styles, and the globe and the butt and inverted bird, and this imagery all together, and out of which there is a two capitals, and on the capitals you will find two makaras opening his mouth, and what the pearls type of round ulcers is coming out of Makara's mouth. I started thinking, is why this imagery? Persian Christianity never had any kind of Makara. In there, any ancient unearthed sites, there is no Makara is represented in Persian Christianity. And the Makara symbol is exclusively to India and China. And Makara is got a fearful creature, is a sea creature, often attacks the ships and the traders. And in Manichaeism and Buddhism, there is many prayers towards their gods to save from the Makaras. And the Manichaean ontological principles is perfectly similarity with this imagery. Manichaeism proposes the two dual policies, dual ontological systems. The Manichaean says the world is created by the realm of light and the realm of dark, and the human beings and the other world is created when the realm of light particles was entrapped by the realm of dark particles. That means our body is engulfed, the spirit, what you call the soul of the human beings. So in order to save your soul, you have to dissociate with the worldly affairs, samsara, which is called like Buddhist samsara, the human flesh. So that is why the Manichaeans is practice the encratism, severe asceticism, like the early Syriac Christianity, because early Syriac Christianity and Manichaeans came to the same root in the 2nd century and 3rd century. And it is all well explained and studied by the Drivers and Burkett and SNC Lewis. You can find it in the books. And further, this represented this Manichaean symbol, ontological principles perfectly symbolized in the imagery of the Manichaean cross found from the Mylapore. That is, this particular praying to Jesus, which is represented by the cross, which is in Manichaean God system, the group of gods or group of prophets. Jesus is also a particular prophet with the cross. And Manichaeans venerate the Jesus because through the crucifixion, he saves the human soul and helps to join with what you call the realm of light. So the realm of light, the pearls represent the human soul. Out of Makara's mouth, it's released and it goes up. If you study carefully the Pahlavi crosses of Mylapore, you can say that these pearls, that is the majority of the souls coming out of the mouth of the Makaras, that the clutches of the human body, and goes up to the joining with the realm of light. And the praying in the Heim Scroll, Chinese Heim Scroll 19, there is a prayer that the praying to the Jesus to save from Makaras, which means is very exactly they are the Chinese mannequins praying to Jesus to save their souls from Makaras, and which is exactly represented in the mannequin cross found from the what do you call Mylapore, Chennai. So this imagery, along with this inscription, the translation of the inscriptions, and the Turfan cave hanging scrolls is exactly matches. And beside this, if you goes through my book, there is also additional corroborative evidences from the Marco Polo's and the Kublai Khan's times incidences, and the Chinese mannequins is put under the Nestorians rule, and all those kind of material evidences are described. All those things as I cannot explain it. What I wanted to tell you is that this search for the search and analysis of the ancient crosses of the Mediterranean, as well as the Sasanian, Chinese, and the Mesopotamian and Indian crosses, it gives and takes us to a conclusion that this particular cross was Manichaean, not Christian. And then how come their St. Thomas Matyard in that particular area, and how the stories is. So if you go back to our Malankara Nasrani's descriptions is, or the history or any kind of evidences from the prior to the St. Thomas, prior to the Portuguese, there is no record, there is no evidences says that the Mylapore connecting with the Malankara Nasranis. Then what it happens? This study takes me to the cost differences of Manichaeans, the cost differences of the Malankara Nasranis. There is 2 to 3 castes always existed among the Malankara Nasranis. I described about this, and all those things is as very clearly descriptions are given in this boxes. You can read it, and I think it is too much time I take to describe about the basic idea of the boxes. Many of the corroborative evidences are given there, and the caste differences and how it came, and how it came to the Malankara side of the means the western side of the coast of the Kerala, and those crosses found from the Kerala side are all copies. There is just copies. And the oldest crosses we found from the Kottayam, it is that the Kottayam church is itself only 15th century, 14th century church. So which means that it is built, and the T.K. Joseph explained it. It is very well explained. It is how it was placed, and how these Syriac prelates inscribed in the Astrangelo script in the one of the crosses in the Kottayam crosses, and all those things is described. You can read it from my book. I think I completed means in the average idea of the box. And thank you.
Yeah, it was really a pakka introduction towards the book. Particularly, you gave the pathway, what you took, or what made you to research on this particular topic and to produce this particular book. So let's have a deep dive towards the book. So as we have known about the outline and what made you to write this, and the questions that was there in our mind. So what are the objectives behind this particular book? What were the objectives that you took, and what were the objectives that you were able to attain?
See, the history was one of the interesting subjects. Though I studied mathematics and physics, management and operations research, all those science as subjects, history was one of my very dear subjects, interesting subject. And later I developed archaeology interest and the genetics and the linguistic interest. So I started along the searching for the history and the social history, particularly I was reading all those things. And my objective in writing this particular book was, so my childhood I have been taught that the Christianity in India was an apostolic Christianity originated by Saint Thomas, and there was many stories. And then from the childhood I questioned that, what is the proof, what is the evidence is that? And I started reading, and I find it out that there is hardly any evidence. These are all stories is created by the people to put forward the what you call their prestige and what you call the high cost imagery they wanted to build up. That is why they wanted to suggest that the Christianity came in the 5th century. No, I don't negate that the Christianity came in 1st century or the 2nd century or the 3rd century. It's came here through the trade network. So my objective was to check those stories propagated by the Syriac Christianity and the Malankara Church, and its origin is correct or not, to test it with the modern scientific methodology, which many of the church historians are afraid to do it. That is why I selected this through the unorthodox method and walk back to the Pahlavi crosses and find out the similarities and find out all those things and imagery, codicological studies and all those things to find out the fact behind the such myths and church history writings. That was my objective. I started when I started this study, I really believed that the Christianity was Indian Christianity was originated by the Syriac Christians, and I was very respectful towards the Syriac Christianity. When I searched and found out that the Syriac Christianity and the Malankara Church was entirely two different entities, and they have no connections, at least up to the 8th or 9th century. Till that time, they were completely separated. Completely, their traditions were completely different. Their what you called the methodology, the belief system, everything, culture, everything was there. What I found out from this, finally found out that we Malankara Church is a Syriacized church, not a Syriac church. That's it. My objective was to check the veracity of the church stories is propagated by any Syriac church in India.
Yeah, that's really important. So you already mentioned that your interest was on physics and maths, and later you came to history. So definitely there will be some difficulties or challenges when a person who is not coming from a historical background, history background, so you have to face many difficulties and challenges. So what are the difficulties that you faced while writing this book? Especially when we connect with the St. Thomas Christians, there are the availability of evidences, the way the people approach towards ancient Christianity. All these are challenges, I think. So, what are the main challenges that you faced?
See, as far as the challenges are concerned, you can see that once you read this book, it travels through archaeology, pure history, genetics, then ceramic studies, then codicological art history, and all those areas. So in order to test a particular thesis or a particular concept, I have to study all those areas. The scholars cut across this archaeology, genetics, what you call ceramic studies, and then linguistics. It is one of the most difficult areas, which very difficult, at least the 3 to 4 times is if you sit back and read, take notes, and you will understand that. So it is very difficult to express by words also. So first of all, the difficulty was the materials. It was very broad, and I have to study it thoroughly before I'm write it down. All those things as I understood. The second thing was the language. It is not the English language is covers all those materials. German, Russian, Chinese. You can see if you read my books, all these books are referred. French, Italian, and even one or two other boxes also, means even Syriac box also there. So, and all most modern papers, Manichaean studies, every papers I personally go through and cross-check the details. Some of the scholars claim this was happened. I have to check the particular statement or claimed with the other things, and I have to be pretty sure about before writing it down. So this is the two things is difficulties. Then the third thing was the huge cost I incurred to purchase these books and materials, and these all things as put together, it was a Herculean task to complete this book.
Yeah, as we see the book itself, it shows that a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of money has spent onto it, and the product or the product of this particular research has come to us in the title, "Unmasking the Syriacs." That's the main title, with the subtitle that of a study of Christianity in India. So my next question is about what made you to choose this particular title, and how it is relevant to the present period.
See, the Syriac, Unmasking the Syriac, the title was not decided till I finished the book. The earlier there were many ideas, and I choose this title because, see, when I started the book, I was not convinced about the final decision or the conclusion I took now, because I was not predetermined to that, I have to decide on this subject in there and writing back accordingly. This was an open-ended, and I started a study and a search, and I found out there. And now the conclusion is there. And what is the conclusion? The unmasking the Syriacs. What the Syriac Christianity in India, as well as the Syriac Christianity in the Middle East, whether it is Nestorians or whether it is Syriac Orthodox or whether it is Melkites or any kind of Syriac Christianity, has nothing to do with the origin of the Malankara Nasranis. That is I found out with archaeological and the linguistic evidences, corroborative ceramic studies and other studies. So which means it is the book, it is unmasking the Syriacs, actually literally unmasking the Syriacs and their claims. You can, if you read the book, you can find it out that those claims is, see, the Pahlavi crosses, it is not belongs to Syriacs. Of course, Manichaean churches comes from the Syriac root, but still it is not the present day Syriac Christianity. And the many of the cultural heritage, the Malankara Nasranis has nothing to do with the Syriac culture. And interestingly, you can see that the entire archaeological remains we found from the ancient sites of the socio-commercial network from the Middle East as well as the Persian Empire and the Central Asia, you will not get any of them in Malankara or South India or entire India. Why? If Syriacs were here since the beginning, or at least the Knaitam and Kudiatam, which was an imaginary, you would have this type of archaeological remains at your end. you find the oldest archaeological remain is the Pahlavi cross. Of course, the next one is the Koilon plates, which I will be writing a book on it, but that's also questionable. The modern science, that's later I'll tell you, explain it to you. So literally the books started with walking along the Syriacs and their all claims and found out that that is all imagery, and now decided that it is all false claims till 10th century, probably 9th century to 10th century. After that, the Syriacs intervention, particularly the Nestorian intervention, takes places. Till that time, the Malankara Church was an indigenized, maybe a pre-proto Orthodox groups existed here. That's only we can say. That too, it's a logical assumptions, because the particular studies which I took here in the last portion of is that which explains it. So that is why I took this name, Unmasking the Syriacs.
So that is very clear. I think that that's really important to understand the real history of Indian Christianity. So could you brief about the importance of socio-economic networks in the spread of Christianity when we talk about in the present period, including the present period in the 2022?
See, there is a chapter, Indian Ocean Trade, People and Places in my book. It is completely a chapter unearthing and excavating about the socio-commercial network and what you call the trade network through Indian Ocean, particularly the Silk Route and the Spice Route and the Middle Routes and the circumnavigated route. Everything is that said with archaeological evidences and all those things. In this study, particularly the what do you call socio-commercial network? The socio-commercial network is that when the starting, maybe Augustus, pre-Augustus times, maybe it might have started maybe 8th century BC or maybe before that, because the Ramses body along with they found along with a bundle of pepper, and there is a content analysis taken place in a Jewish university. Find Malabhatram's contents is in a amphora. That's all indicating the early trade with the southern belt of what you call South India. And this socio-commercial network, when particularly the Alexandria, from an Alexandria, a merchant want to purchase peppercorns, what you call pepper, kurumalak. What he do? He wanted to take his sellable items and transported it to where through the Upper Nile, and then they transported it to somewhere in Moyos Hormuz or Barnike, and that till port, and it has to transport it. They can transport it through the Nile or the on the road, and they reach the Barnike. They'll take a small ship, and that small ship they takes to the South Arabian port, Sumragagan or the Korori or some kind of a port, Kwane or something, where they get a major mothership, and the mothership takes 40 days to reach Malankara, this Muchuri. That is what Peripress Maharaja describes it. So in these places, how do a particular merchant want to purchase a bundle or a lot of peppercorns? How do he do? He takes this sellable item and transport it. He needs the transporters up to where Bernike, and he needs the ships, and from the ships, small ships to motherships, and from the motherships to Muchuri, and all those things. As if this trader do not have money, there must be some financier needed. And what the financier do? He finance the particular amount, and he cannot leave this trader and believe this trader. So his agents will be there. His agents will be Bernike here, and the Bernike, when his materials reaches, this agent will send the financier, yes, your man is here and your good is safe. and he will not allow with that money. So like that, every major node, port and other things is these multi-linguistic, multi-religious people settled as completing this trade network. That is called node. And this node, the communities interacts. And these communities interacts, different religions, as the transfer of religions takes place. That is the socio-commercial network. And this through this socio-commercial network, all religions, philosophies, and all things has been travels or transfers. Like that, that is why Periplus Mar Erythraeal describes about Muchuri, and there in that book it is exclaimed that there are dealers who deals with the wheat, which are not used by the particular Dravidians, because Dravidians were the rice eaters. So if Dravidians were the rice eaters, then for whom these wheat dealers existed? There must be somebody who used wheat, and these all those things. More than that, the Mosiris papers. This is the 3rd century, 4th century. Mosiris, a contractual agreement found out from the Egypt. And it was studies are there, and it is very clearly shows that the contract between a trader and a financier. When he transferred these peppercorns there, he will pay back the debt. And there is every very picturesque way, what you called the content analysis, then the traders, then the archaeological evidences, then inscription evidences, everything is there. And what else you need? You look at your coastal belt of India. You will have the coastal belt of India having the more colored people, means fair colored people than the interiors of the India. Why it's happened? These socio-commercial networks mixed with the people, and they have passed genes to these people. For example, you say a Jewish man, or a Alexandrian, he came to Muchuri with the 40 days, is when the monsoon wind starts, it reaches by August, September, they have to collect it. The other internal network, which is these trade guilds of South India doing, they collect all these materials, and what they do is they collect it and come to Muchuri, and they traded it there. And these particular groups was staying in Muchuri, and they sometimes they travels to Marayur, or sometimes they travel to Kodamangalam. They sometimes they travel to what you call Mantai in Sri Lanka to collect those different items. And all those places, far away from the homeland, far away from their partners, they live in their secluded life in Muchuri. And naturally, they need their body affairs needed, and the local girls is mixed with, and they produced a mixed community, and they transferred religions. That was what happened. It is the way the human beings interact, and there is nothing shame on it. That is the fact of life. And if you test your genetics, the genes, DNAs, it is explicit. So the socio-commercial network works in a kind of a network analysis. Nodes connected with that, and from this particular node, the small nodes are there, because the pepper grows in the hill areas. You have to collect it and brought it to Muchuri to load it into some Roman ship, and then send it back. And the other thing, you have to understand that the coins, the gold coins, you find it in Coimbatore belt, Vanjimananagaram. See, these places, interior places, the Roman coins. How come the Roman coins in the interior places? Have you thought about it? It is because the first of all, the Roman gold coins were no value for that time society of Dravidians. They used it for the ornamental purpose, and the maximum gold coins collected from the rivers Why? It is because they were believers. These Davidians were the worshippers of rivers, worshippers of trees, and all those tribal society. What they do is that something happens, they put all these ornaments and throw it in the river. That is why the gold Roman coins you maximum found from the riverbed. And these all things is put together. If you spread in a spreadsheet, you can say, you can logically relate to everything. Instead of that, what we propose is the ancient old, the heritage owned Malankara Nasranis proposes the European history and the Persian history. And very interesting thing is that these trade network, studies of the state network, along with the ceramic studies, the root and studies is find out that the terra sigillata find out from the Arikimede, Muchuri and old South India goes to Red Sea route and up to where the Alexandria and the Roman belt. And it does not goes to Persia till 6th century, end of the 5th century. Why? And there is no particular ceramics is in this particular what you call the Persian Gulf. Persian ceramics is in the South India, is available only after 5th or 6th century. So which means the AD 345 migration story is an imagery story created by Syriac Christians to subjugate the Malankara Nasranis. It is factual. So that the trade history reveals another myth which created by the religious colonialism.
Okay, that's clear. So, could you give an outline about the major differences between the Malankara Church and the Syriac Christianity? You have already explained that the Syriac Christianity tried to provide an idea that the Christianity or the migration of AD 345. So, we would like to know about the major differences with the Malankara Church and about the Syriac Christianity.
See, first of all, let me tell you that the Malankara Christianity or Malankara Church and the Syriac Church, whether there are a few groups are there, Syriac Church, all Syriac Church, the root of the church, these two entities are entirely different. They have a origin is entirely different. Their development up to 10th century, probably 9th century is entirely different. There may be some visitors, trading visitors or something may be happened. That cannot be said as the subjugation or the control over the Malankara Church. Malankara Church was always independent and it started as independent. The church, when it is started, we cannot trace its beginning because there is no evidences. There is no hardcore evidences except some kind of directions which can assume by the logical deduction. That's all. And the second thing is that the Syriac Church, Syriac Church majorly, first of all, it was originated as a Gnostic church. It was not a proto-Orthodox church. Its belief was Gnostic church. And it is very, very clearly noted by Drivers and Burkitt and SMC Liu, Sam NC Liu. These all researchers, they find it out very clearly that the Ephraim the Syrians, this venerated Ephraim, his place was Nisibis. When Nisibis was captured by the Persians, he eloped to Edessa. When he came to Edessa, the cradle of Syriac Christianity was filled with the Gnosticism. Marcionites, Bardesianists, and then the Manichaeans. These three groups were ruling. And the Syriac Christianity started its Bible or using its Bible, Tatian's Bible, Diatarazoron. After that only they changed it because it was a Gnostic Bible. They changed to Peshitta. How? These Syriac root groups split. One gone to the Manichaean side, what you call the Gnostic side, and the other gone to the proto-Orthodox side. And thus the Syriac Christianity from the Gnostic side changed to Orthodox side, because actual Christianity side. And their beliefs, their encratism, the severe asceticism, all those are reflections. And the story, the Adai Mari story, which these Kaldayawadis and what you call the Chaldeans and the Nestorians proposes, actually today the scholars believes that it is all fake. Actually, the Adda is the Manichaean Adda, and this Adda was redrafted and taken to Syriac Christianity and put as the head of the Adai. There's many studies are there, many evidences are there. So the Jesus Christ and the letters to Ukamo, the king Ukamo of Edessa, are that's the redrafting of the relation between Mani and the Persian king. And all those historical development has been noted by the scholars, but unfortunately our church scholars never revealed those. I don't know, most of them may not be knowing it, but the majority, they never, even if they know, they never pass on to the common people, because they lose their belief in the big Syriac aura. There is nothing called the Syriac Christianity as such, as pure as the other proto-Orthodox Christianity. The Christianity is the backbone is Greek Christianity. There is no doubt about it. Roman Christianity, or what you call Latin Christianity. This Syriac Christianity started as a Gnostic group, then they change over to the proto-Orthodox group, and they become the Christianity. And these all paraphernalia, the dress, the code, all those things is all came from the paganism. These all venerations, everything is came from paganism. So there is nothing called purity or pure in this Syriac Christianity than anything which is presently having in the Gnostic Christianity. So what you see today, these all ornamentation in our in kurbanas and all those things is 75% adopted from paganism. When I am saying is that many of the Syriac Christians may be having a grudge over me, but this is the fact. You have to accept it. But Malangara Church, it was a purely Hindu Dravidian church. The Malangara Church probably believed in Jesus, Yeshu. Maybe I wanted to rephrase it, the religion of Jesus. It is not exactly the Christianity, the religion of Jesus. He himself as an ideal, or what you called a god or something like that. I don't know. I am not sure about that, whether the Malangara Nazranis started venerating as a god, or maybe a revolutionary, and there was a mixed with the Dravidian culture and ideals. Still, we do have the Dravidian cultural hangings in all what you call Achara Ridi. So that is why the Syriac Christianity, Malangara Church is not originated as a Syriac Christianity. Syriac Christianity, we were the Syriacized Christians after the post 9th century period. At least as evidence indicate. That's it.
Yeah. And Don, are you there? Okay, I think there is a technical issue. Okay. Next question will be regarding the different question. Some people have criticized your work, stating that the content that has been already discussed by other scholars. So, what do you take on this statements?
I want to tell you frankly that those people who criticize me never read my book. That is why. Because I described, I don't know how effective was my language, but I discussed all those inputs, the details and studies and all those things. can you point out one author from entire Christian background in not only in India and the Middle East and Syriac Christian scholars has ever talked to you about it?
No.
And why those people say that the some of the, of course, the Bernal was the first man suggests this cross belongs to mankind, and after that there are few other guys who also did that. Okay, I should give the credit to Bernal that there is 100% sure that the Bernal was a great man. He was the first man identified that particular language as Pahlavi. So his scholarship was intact. And till that time, these old scholars were talking about Hebrew, Aramaic. What you call one scholar said there is the language which is used by the God to convey with Abraham. You can see that the Christian writers making stories, such wild imaginative stories, is in the name of history. So that is why I'm saying those criticizing my book, my simple request them to purchase a copy and read it. You will have to read it at least 5 to 10 times to understand all those things. It's particularly the translation part of it, transliteration part of it, Pahlavi part, that chapter, you have to read it at least for 3 times to understand it. And then you criticize me. Fortunately, I'll give you. There are only 5-6 replies, or means comments I received, and the first comment, or what you call the criticism or whatever may be, from a Syro Malabar senior priest. Within 3 days, he read the book and put it in a 5 points and a concept and said that, sir, these 5 points are your entire book. Am I right? Yes, absolutely. I said that. Right. So there are scholars, particularly in the Catholic side. I have no doubt about it. The Catholic educated men are much higher than any other church people. And after that, the second one called me was an non-Christian author. He said this book is going to be what you call one of the milestone in the Christian as well as the social history of Kerala and entire the region. He said, I said simply thanks. And I don't consider those the Christian fundamentalist believers or what you call staunch believers. I just beg them, get a copy, read it 2-3 times, and then criticize me with evidences and the quotations from the scholars, and these are the reasons. You are wrong. Accept it. I write an apology to them if I am wrong in the analysis. Particularly, you check with that the Magara and the ontological principles representing the codicological way. There are these great scholars like Madam like Susanna Gulassi, Han Klimkate, Urt, Van Ort, and all those Manichaean scholars, and Garba Krosa. See, you can see my acknowledgement. There are so many scholars from the different languages, different cultures, different countries. I consulted all of them. I am very much thankful for all of them, because those papers, some of the papers I read 5 times, 6 times to understand even, and then they compare with it, and then put it in my ideas into it. That is why I'm saying, criticize me very thoroughly with basic points and the corroborative evidences. Until read my book, please avoid such kind of propaganda. That is the only thing I can tell all of those people.
It's really a great comment from the side of author about criticism against his work. The next question is something related to that same. The church historians, whatever story that they used to say, or the history that they used to portray, it was all about that pre pre 1599 history were destroyed, or that's not there. I mean, it's not more, or we can't get any evidences from those time or those period. As you analyze this particular period, in addition to these core objectives or those core points that you have covered, my next question is. Do you think that these type of church historians, church leaders, or church scholars will make a comment on this, or will they believe that there is something history that we also have to study?
Frankly, can I answer you frankly?
Sure, this floor is open for anything.
This is not a negative comment. I'll tell you that there is a policy of Narasimha Rao policy. Have you heard about it? If you got a problem, sit on it. That is the Narasimha Rao problem, Narasimha Rao policy, because he practiced it. If India faces some kind of a serious political problem, what he is that he kept mum. He'll not react. Sit over it. And naturally, the political problem, somehow or the other, have a further away. But this is a historical question and historical problem. It will not wither away because my material is in the domain for even after 200 years, I die out. Understand that? So, I don't know the church historians or church scholars will react to my book. At least I don't think next 6 months or the 1 year, because they'll wait and watch how the people receive the book or not, or the scholars. Unfortunately, I can tell you that the recent 1 or 2 weeks there are international scholars is reacting to my few papers they have seen, and they said this is the one of the works we need. And I think in the coming 1 year, there may be more international scholars reacting to my work. And then they will certainly, they have to answer. Our churchmen, particularly Malangara Church and the other Syriac churches, the problem with them is that they have decided that the church and church history belongs to them. And it is written in the aramanas, palaces of the bishops and patriarchs, and you go to believe in it. It was the earlier methodology of the what you called pre-democratic area, because the kingdoms, the kings put a person in the chair and write my history. That was that. Now the democratic setup, the history has broken the palaces and came out from the what do you call the scholar side. Now scholar is not dependent upon any of the bishops, any of the kings, or any of the political leader. And the scholar or the historian or the student of history depends on only his brain and logic, if he is a faithful man. That is why the historians of the Malangara Church or the any Syriac Church or the entire Syriac world, those Westerners who writes exclusively for Syriac churches, should seriously look into these objections raised, the evidences put forward, and study it and counter it, and have a dialogue with me. Or the people who suggest us, like the FC Barkit or Trivers or say Assam, NC Liu and all those scholars. There are so many scholars that are put forward at this kind of objections. And there is no point in keeping mum or practicing Narasimha Rao ideology over a problem. Just face it. If you want to say that the St. Thomas came and the St. Thomas converted us and the St. Thomas converted the Brahmins and they built 7.5 churches and all those things, do it. But with the historical methodology and with the proofs and evidences, corroborate evidences. Until and unless your stories are just lines over water. Because the modern era, the people more attached to science and technology, and they scrutinize each and every historical story which you put forward as in the name of religion. So I hope the church fellows will soon react and they will start reading it, and we'll have a nice dialogue in the coming years.
Yeah, that's really important. So along with that, the next question is connected to that. So that means, does your work challenges the established norms in history writing?
No, I don't claim that, because
Okay.
the thing is that the history writing, it's in the 18th century or the 19th century, 20th century, 21st, 22nd. See, through the ages, it develops. See, we have today very, very good genetic studies to corroborate with. We have good ceramic studies, archaeological studies, then art history and all those things. Because as the science developed, new methodology came in, and what will happen is that it will be incorporated into the historical studies, and the old concepts and old beliefs will taken out, and the new will be established. So I am the part of the that the particular subject only. So I am not the originator or the starter of it. But still, I'll tell you, it will be a very big step compared with the church historians. That's only I
Yes,
can say.
definitely.
Moving forward, I think we are coming to the last part of this particular discussion, and if anyone who likes to ask few questions or share something with Jeevan Philip, you are it's we are our chat box is open to that, and you can do it, and we can share the same, or we can share this same question towards Jeevan Philip for answering the same. So as we come to the last part of this particular discussion, one among last thing that we all like to hear from you is about your future projects, and what are you planning about your future projects? What will be the topics? We already heard that you are going to write something about copper plates, but in addition to that, I think our viewers also like to know your new areas where you are going to explore. So if you can mention that, we will be much happy for that. And in addition, a few of the comments that came in when we posted this particular post in our Facebook and other social medias, where when a few of our people here in Malangara, they like to read this particular book in their own language. So also like to know about the updates related to that.
See, as far as my next works is concerned, there are few in the pipeline. I seriously want to write a book on Indian civilization, incorporating recent genetic studies with respect to Aryan Dravidian controversy. That is one of my favorite subjects, and I wanted to really do in a certain different way, because I am not a scholar of genetics, but I understand genetic basically and its fundamentals, and I can produce a much qualified work. And the second one, as I said, I wanted to write a study on copper plates, and the basic copper plates against the trade guilds of southern India. So it makes many things, because I have already collected some materials with me, and that it will be some to some it will be some astonishing fact also, because the copper plates has more controversial plates, and some says it belongs to Christians, some says it is not belongs to Christians. It's all under what imagery concepts, and there are certain universities along with the British Museum, started a study, and I think I heard that it was temporarily stopped because of certain reasons. And anyway, I'm going to do it. I don't know I'll be successful or not, but I'll do my level best in that book. And the other thing is, I wanted to write about the church's history, church, particularly the structure church of the 7.5 churches proposed by the Syriac Christianity, and their original history. Because many of the churches, sectarian churches, claims our church is older than your church is older than our church. This is the methodology. Particularly the Syro Malabar and the Malangara church fellows argue on our churches, because our church is older than yours, your church is older than ours. So I'll write the structure, the basically Okada type of book. There's a scholar called Okada, a Japanese scholar, and he studied the structure of the church archaeologically and produced many interesting writes. Same type of a work I wanted to do it on the Malangara old churches. And there is also an intention of working with some other guys with the social history of Kerala. That is in the pipeline, but it'll take time, 5 to 6 years. If my age permits us, I'll do it also. That is the immediate programs I intended to complete.
About the Malayalam version that people ask.
Malayalam version, yes. I offered many of my readers is that I'll do it in 6 months. I wanted to finish it in 6 months. I'll take leave from my all activities is for 2 months, and I'll read it after. But it is not a padanubada tarjuma, what means a word by word translation. It will continue. Means, what you call my style of writing as such in Malayalam, so that the common man can understand. No complexities, no difficulties in understanding. All explained with the common language, common man language. I'll do it and produce it and give it to the readers. Surely, I'll do it.
Yeah. Don, is there any questions in the comment box?
We have not received any comments in the chat box. I think many of them were watching, but I think they may do the same in your page and your account. We have not seen any comments or questions here, but it was really a good time to have this discussion. Particularly, we were able to feature you for the first time after writing this particular book. That's now in the market, and if possible, Jeevan sir, can you just mention about how they can buy this particular book, particularly both the international and Indian version?
See, the book is on print order method, and you can buy the book from Notion Press, Lulu Press for international, Lulu Press, and the Amazon.com. Anywhere in the world, even the Brazil or Mexico or Australia, England, you log on to the respective Amazon site, the book is available. And those who want to directly buy from the Lulu books also available. That's also all over the world, and particularly India, the Notion Press is available, and the Amazon, Flipkart, and other booksellers is also available. You can directly buy it through it.
Yeah, it's really a good information for the people who are watching this particular stream from different parts of the world. In addition to this, we also like to mention a prelude that was published by our publication, OCP publication, in the year 2020, where we published this particular book, Malaganda Nasrani research papers that were written in collaboration with George Alexander, with Jeevan Philip. If you like to have a quick intro towards what these discussions were, I think this particular book will be a good prelude for that. And you can also find this book in all major platforms. In addition to, you can get the same link towards the same from our side. And as we come to the last part, I'd like to hear the reflection about the time with us, how you felt about this particular this um, particular a program that we are hosting now in the name of Creative Orthodox Corner. In addition, we also like to know about your opinion about Orthodoxy Cognate page as we end this, and also like to hear about how the time was with us.
See, frankly speaking, this is the first program I ever attended in my life. You can understand that. See, there is some kind of a hesitations and continuity flow maybe happened, because as and when it's continuous starts, I think I'll overcome. The second thing is, I'll thank you all for inviting me and giving me a chance to express my ideas to the readers. It's very good, and those questions were excellent, and I think some of them I think I have expressed well so that the readers can understand. Some of them may be problematic, but I'll improve my own. In the later times, as I now come with more explanations in Malayalam and all those things, as I'll continue to do it. And the time I spent with you is great. I really enjoyed it. And all the best wishes for OCP team and the Creative Orthodox Center. I think hope your channel will increase its subscribers and go in greatest height. Wish you all
Thank you for that good words from your side. We are much happy when the book was available in the site itself. Our executive committee was much happy in that, and we have also read those introduction where you are given. Thanks to our former secretary George Alexander. It's really great to have collaboration with you, Sir Jeevan Philip. And as we end, we request all of you to read this particular book, and we also wish that let this particular work be a good prelude or like a Bible for the people who starts to read in this particular line of history, where many of the text or many of these former projects were not covering out. And as we come to the end of this this particular episode, we are much thankful. We think that we can bring more creative people, all those as we brought last time, directors and these type of people who likes to share the things with the people, and let this platform. We are much happy to share this platform for that particular course. And we are much happy. Thank you for all of you watching from different parts of the world. And in future, you can see the same video here in the YouTube itself. But we are looking forward to upload the same as a podcast in our podcast too. So you can get the same in our podcast channel, that in Spotify, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Looking forward for uploading the same there. Thank you all. See you all soon. And hereby we end this episode. See you soon with another episode in this channel. Stay connected with OCP.